Alright, Ecom Empires, what's up? Nick here, and I'm recording a special video that is going to be very current, relevant, and simple Facebook ads strategy that anybody can use no matter what you're selling, whether you're drop shipping, doing print on demand, and it's a combination of using ad set budget and campaign budget optimization. And this is something that I can't really take credit for creating this, but I've been using this and kind of popularizing this with a lot of people and sharing it because I've tested it extensively and it works super well to help create a very stable automated foundation of ads that can perform for you consistently. And one of the things that's been said about the Ecom Empires free training ever since the beginning, in the very beginning of Ecom Empires, I had a case study that I shared with everybody, and then I moved away from that as I did my masterminds, and in 2020 I updated all the training. But some people have said, well, Nick, where is like some actual live stuff that we can see? And so I wanted to actually come back in here and do this. I consider this super valuable, kind of a treat to be able to share this for free with people. There's really no reason I have to share this for free, but I'm going to because I want people to see how good this works and actually have a really good Facebook ads strategy that anybody can use to be pulling consistent numbers. All right, so you can see last month, this is a brand new store that was able to hit over $100,000 in sales using this strategy, all mostly just through pure online store traffic. Right, you can see very little of this has to do with upsells. Okay, so what I'm going to be showing you is a strategy that you can set up on a store when you have a winning product to be able to do this. Now, the prerequisite of what I'm about to show you is that you have to have a winning ad creative, winning product, right? And that's everything that I showed you in the previous videos, okay? So if you haven't watched my videos on Facebook ad creatives and finding a winning product, then this is not going to help you. This only helps when you can't force anything, right? This is just a strategy that works when you have something that's selling, okay? And I'm going to walk you through the strategy, walk you through the ads account, and create like a really in-depth training here to be able to show you how this works. And just to show you some live data to show you that this is working like actually today as I record this, here's the current sales on this store today, and you can see basically just from 7 a.m. when it kicked in, because actually with this store right here, my ad account was disabled yesterday for no reason at all, and then I appealed it and got it back on, and it kicked right back into the performance right around here and started doing super well. And again, this is something that's like automated, requires very little work, and it's beautiful when you have this set up. Okay, so let's go into the actual setup here, right? It's basically, all right, let me give you a high level overview first, okay? Basically what this strategy is it's like a 1-2 step type of strategy when it comes to combining this ABO and CBO. All right, now a prerequisite to this, if you don't understand the difference between ad set budgets and campaign budgets, then you should go check out the Facebook Blueprint. I'm not going to waste your time covering that because Facebook already covers that in depth, and I've talked about that in other trainings. So I'm just going to get right into what the strategy actually is. And you should stop here and go read up on the differences between ad set budget and campaign budget if you don't know what they are. All right, so here's how it works. Basically, step 1 is ad set budgets, and this is where we're testing different audiences with our creative to find something that works. And just as a note, as I've been saying since the very beginning, the thing that tends to work best for creatives is videos. All right, so you don't have to use a video. This works with both photos and videos. By the way, I've done this strategy both ways, but videos definitely perform the best, and from what I've seen, and offer the most benefit for scaling as well. And then step 2 is CBO. So basically what we're doing here is we're testing ad set budgets to find something that works. And then when we find something that works, we isolate it into its own CBO to start bringing in some more sales, right? So we'll have a campaign, right? Our testing campaign that's an ad set budget campaign, okay? And I recommend finding 5 to 10 audiences, okay? Do I say that in here? I don't exactly say that, but that 10 audiences, right? So I recommend 5 to 10. 10 if you can find them, 5, at the minimum should be. And the way that I like to test here is I like all my audience sizes to be 2 million or more. And the reason I want that is because I want a broad enough audience, right? I don't like to go narrow, okay? Because Facebook is really, really advanced nowadays with its optimization, and you can get sales on day one with audiences that are in size of 30 million plus. Trust me, okay? What matters is how good of a creative you have and how good of a product you have. If you have a really good video that does a good job of selling, and you have a well-branded store and a great product that solves a problem or solves some sort of need or want or desire, then it doesn't matter how large the audience is. The reason a large audience is good is because it really helps when you want to move it into a CBO for lots of consistent sales, right? So basically, I'm just going to show you 5 for the purposes of not drawing out 10 whole audiences here. But basically what we're doing is we're finding 5 to 10 different broad level interests, right, to be able to test this product. Okay, and each one, like I said, 2 million or more in size. And for this, I'm just looking for broad, obvious interests. We're not trying to get super complicated here, okay? If I'm selling a kitchen gadget, all right, like say I'm selling some sort of kitchen gadget, so I know my home or I know my niche is kitchen, right? I'm going to be looking for the 10 obvious audiences that have to do with that. And I'm going to come in to, right, you're going to set it up as a convergence campaign, okay? And I would name it something like, so I'm not going to test with campaign budget, right? This is different. And the reason I wanted to also record this video is because originally when I made some of the training videos that are in here now, I thought that this was supposed to become mandatory, but now it's not. Facebook has indefinitely postponed that. So I would name this something like, whatever the product is, ABO conversions. Okay, so I know that this is my ad set budget conversions test. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find purchase, right? This was something I was running for leads, but I'm using this account as an example. Okay, so I'd find my purchase, right? And this is just because it's red doesn't even matter, right? Just that's a good example because I start it like this every time, no matter what. I don't care that there's been no purchases on the site yet. All right, and then where you're targeting is up to you. Generally, I like to start with the United States first because that's the best buying audience out there, and I like to test there, and you can scale worldwide later. And then I'll set it up on all these other things. Okay, now this traffic to the homepage is just if you're running a one-product store. All right, if you're running a general store and you have a winning product, obviously you're going to send it to the product page. But if you have a one-product store, you're going to send it to the homepage. Okay. And so you can see how I set it up here, 7-day, 1 day, and I'll show you how I do my placements as well. All right, but I'm turning this off, and I'm just looking for, like, so okay, in this kitchen example, right? I would type in the most obvious keyword, and that's where I start. Okay, so I can see that kitchen is an interest, and I would start with that. All right, this is going to be a super broad interest, 62 million people. I'm still going to test this. I would still test kitchen on its own. But then I'm also going to click the suggestions, and I'm going to look at the other ones that are in here, right? There's all these broad level interests that are awesome. Kitchen utensil, cookware and bakeware, recipes, home appliances, kitchenware, cooking. I would test all of these as their own ad set, okay? So for this one, for example, the way I name it is Simple Kitchen. I'd probably do 21 plus, okay, because I doubt that many 18-year-olds are buying kitchen equipment, so I would set this to 21 plus. And as long as it's a non-gender specific, I would keep that to all, and that would be my test, right? And then I would come back in, create a new ad set, and I would just start working down the line of the most obvious interest, cooking, okay? And I would remove the kitchen one, and cooking's a huge one, right? But I'm still going to test it, okay? And I would start coming down here and doing kitchenware, right? And I would test all these different ones that are going to range anywhere from 2 million to whatever, okay? Generally for me, I like to test on just the Facebook feed first. Now, this is a matter of preference, whether some people recommend just doing automatic placements. Personally, for me, I like to test on just the Facebook feed first, and I remove right column because it's pointless if you have a video. I remove stories because you need a special format for stories. I remove in-stream because you need it to be a 15-second video for it to qualify for in-stream, and generally my videos are not going to be 15 seconds long. They'll be longer than that, and the rest of these are fine. Okay, and then I set $5 budgets. Okay, anybody that tells you $5 budgets don't work to test is just absolutely wrong, and that's it. Okay, that's how I set it up, and it should also be set for. Okay, it should be optimized for conversions, all right, and 7-day click, 1-day view. Okay, so that's how I have it set up for the basic formatting, and every ad set is going to be the same. I'm just going to be branching out to 5 to 10 of these super obvious broad level interests. All right, and that's how I would set up my strategy until I had 10 of these. All right, all running at $5 a day to start testing. Okay, and then what I do is when I have something that works, okay, so that's the testing phase. All right, when I have something that works, I duplicate that winning ad set into a CBO. All right, now let's take a step back here and look at so each one of these is going to have one video ad or whatever your main ad is. Now, this is where you can, sometimes it all depends, okay? If I'm doing a drop shipping product, generally I just have one video, right? I know that I get my one video made the best that I know how to get it made with my team, and we put together a high quality video with a great script formula that we follow, same one that I've shared in the previous videos about ad creatives. And we just test that one video for each audience, right? And so this video is testing with each audience. But if you're doing something and maybe you're unsure, some people like to test multiple creatives, you can do that too. All right. I've also talked about the strategy where you're testing multiple creatives. The only difference is on the low budgets, on the $5 budget, it's going to take you longer to get the meaningful data because $5 spent to one, you can start getting data in the first 2 to 3 days, right? $5 spent split among two, it's probably going to take you double the time to start getting the data. But eventually what you're looking for, no matter what, whether you're using one or you're using two or using three, is you're looking for a winning combination that works, okay? And you want to take those winning combinations and then move them into their own CBO. All right, so I have this one, and if this is working, okay, it's getting purchases, then I'm going to move it into its own CBO campaign and duplicate that ad set, the same exact ad set right here. I'm going to duplicate it 5 times, okay, so that the same exact ad set is running copies of itself 5 times. All right, and that's the strategy at a high level, right? New CBO at a $100 budget, duplicate ad set 5 times, minimum spend of $10 each per ad set. Now, before I show you how this works with a real account, I just want to explain the reason that it works is because, remember, we have audiences that are 2 million in size or more. Okay, and so when we have a winning combination, by moving it in, isolating it into its own CBO and duplicating the ad set multiple times, we're giving ourselves, like, each one of these is basically going to go out into a new pocket of the audience, right? You have this whole audience, and each one of them is going to just like start somewhere. Okay, and what that means is you're giving yourself more chances of success to find winning pockets of the audience and just have that running sequentially next to each other, congruently, however you want to say it. The point is, you're not going to get overlap because you're still not running big budgets, especially if you have a big audience, right? This is going to be the $100 CBO, and it's basically going to be budgeting $10 to $20 per ad set in here, because you're setting the minimum spend level at $10 each, okay? And you're going to do this as many times as you need to. All right, so if all of these turn out to be a winner, right, a good winning ad set, then I'm going to move them all into their own CBO. Now, what do you look for in terms of moving something into its own CBO? Well, I look for the same basic testing parameters that I always have. Okay, so on day one, since we're testing at $5 budgets, right? By day one, I'm looking for clicks mostly. Clicks and add to carts ideally, and this is all assuming you're not getting purchases. As soon as you get purchases, that's what you're looking for. But you won't always get purchases on day one, right? So day one, I'm looking for clicks and add to cart. If I'm not getting any clicks by the end of day one, then I'm going to turn that ad set off. All right. By the end of day two, I'm looking for add to cart for sure. Now, a note here. Generally, this has to do with your target cost per acquisition, right? Because if you have, let's say you're selling a $50 product, all right, and you know it costs you, let's just say, for example, with shipping and cost of goods, it costs you $25 to source that product, okay? Then you know that your target CPA is $25. Okay, so you need to be getting purchases at under $25 to be profitable. And generally, the way I like to think of my add to carts is divided by 2. All right, so in this situation, I would know that by the time I'm getting to around $12.50, I should be seeing add to carts, because generally you're going to have like anywhere from a 50% to 30% to 50% drop off rate from people that add to cart to actually purchase. Okay, and these are kind of just generalized numbers, but that's the way I think about it. So if I know that I should be getting target CPA of $25, then by the time I get to the end, and this is just an example, but by the time I get to the end of day two, I want to be seeing add to carts, because like the $10 to $12 range, if I'm not getting add to carts, then chances are I'm not going to be profitable on that ad set. And then day three, basically day 3 to 4, I want to start seeing purchases. Okay, because again, this has a little bit to do with your target CPA. I will let an ad set run until it reaches my target CPA, but the only way I'm going to let it run, so like obviously at $5 a day at $25 target CPA would mean we have to run it for 5 days. The only way I'm letting it run for 5 days is if it's meeting the criteria ahead of time, right? Basically, each day in your testing phase, when you're testing these ad sets, each day is like, you have to justify why it moves to the next day. Okay, so day one, the only way it's moving to the next day is if it's getting great clicks. All right, day two, day three, generally the only way it's moving to the next day is if I'm not only seeing great clicks and a good CTR, but I'm also starting to see some add to carts. And then by the time I'm getting to day 3, I want to see purchases, but I'll let it run to day 4, maybe even day 5, depending on my target CPA and my margins, if I'm getting great clicks and great add to carts. Okay, so these things always need to align, but obviously purchases is what you're looking for. And generally on winning items, you will see purchases in the first 3 days on your best ad sets. And so that's really what I'm looking for there, and turning off the ones that are not performing. So what is a good CPC? What is a good ATC? Well, I told you how I think about ATC, but just some other baseline numbers for you. CPC on a winning product is generally going to be under $1. Okay, it's going to be like $1 or under. And on the really good products that have the potential to go viral and hit big days, it's generally going to be under 50 cents from what I've seen. Or 50 cents to around 50 cents, somewhere around there, right? It's not a hard rule, but this is generally what I'm looking for. And then CTR is usually going to be 1% or higher on those ad sets. So this click-through rate is just kind of giving you an idea of how well your ad is performing, how interested people are in your product. And then the add to carts you're looking for based on your CPA, and then your target CPA for your purchase is based on your margin for the product. Okay, so this is kind of how I'm judging it to kill and find ad sets that are winning. Now, in order determine whether or not something should be moved to its own CBO, I need to see some good purchase data, all right? I generally want to see at least 3 to 5 purchases, okay? And this ranges based on how quickly those purchases are coming in. If I see 3 purchases within the first 2 days, right, meaning that I'm getting purchases for like $3 a purchase, I'm getting add to carts for like $2, and I'm getting CPC that's like 50 cents and under, that's a clear indication of a winning ad set right out the gate, okay? And that's enough for me to move it into its own CBO. But if the purchases are spread a little bit more evenly, right, like maybe by day 3, I only have 2 purchases, you know, I'm going to generally let it run a little bit longer until I'm confident that this is something that's good, right? You need to be seeing consistent purchases happening pretty much daily with really good add to cart and click rate in order to move it, okay? And sometimes this ad set, for example, may perform amazing in the first 3 days. It's getting purchases already, great add to carts, great CPC. Maybe this ad set isn't terrible. Maybe it has 1 purchase by day 2 and it gets another one the next day, but it's taking a little bit longer. So that's fine. I'll let this ad set slow cook a little bit and see if by day 4, day 5, maybe this ad set's racked up enough profitable purchases in order for me to want to move it into its own CBO. But that's just like, it's kind of based on the ad set, right? How well it's performing, when it's going to perform, okay? So that's the testing phase of how I move into this 1-2 kind of CBO phase. Sorry about my VA Skype messages coming in. So now let's go over and kind of look at the ad account and show you how this works. Alright, so I'm going to set this campaign. So this is today, as you can see. It's getting a great return on, so 1,088 spent. That's brought back a total of $6,700 so far. Day's not even close to over yet, still 4 hours left in the day. So this strategy, you can see, works, and this is just a combination of CBOs right now running. Like I said, all the ad sets that I have that are working, I'm going to duplicate into its own CBO. And so I have multiple CBOs running for multiple audiences now, including my retargeting, and I also started to create some lookalikes as well. But in the beginning, for the entire month of April, all right, if I go look at last month, the entire month of April was all based on, so I showed you earlier, it was $109,000 in sales, and it was based mostly on these CBOs, okay? So if we stack this by amount spent, we'll see that I had basically these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 primary CBOs that were running, okay, alongside 2 testing campaigns. All right, this was 2 testing campaigns that were running 10 audiences each in there. All right, and these primary CBOs here, it's not tracking all the purchases, but these primary ones here were responsible for basically 75% of, or almost, actually more than that, probably almost 80% of all the revenue until the end of the month, where I started to create a couple new CBOs based on some ad sets that performed well over the month. All right, so when we come in here, and I want to just take an example of one and show you how this works, and I'm going to actually go into the lifetime again to show you this, because I just created a new CBO recently that's right here. That's a lookalike. Okay, so this one, that one's turned off. This one is the one I want to show you because this is new. You can see it just started today. It's only spent $83 at a $100 budget, meaning it obviously just came on today. All right, and basically what I did here is just the same as I showed you, right? So this was for an audience called Lawnmower. I don't mind if you see the audience, I guess. So it's for an audience called Lawnmower, which was from a testing campaign that I was running. Let's see. A testing campaign that I was running in here. So these are all the $5 budgets, right? And I've run these now for a while. This is looking at lifetime, so these have been running for just over a month now. And the best ones in the beginning, like if we go by cost per result, the best ones in the beginning were the ones that went first, right? Were the ones that I moved into their own CBO first. Some of them right out the gate were doing amazing, and they were the first ones to go. Some of them, it took a little bit more time, like this one. This is the audience that I just duplicated a couple days ago because, you know, it just kind of slow cooked, and I wasn't really paying attention to it because I had other stuff running. But then I came in and I looked and I was like, wow, this one, you know, what I eventually ended up doing is, even though these are within my target CPA, right? These are the ones I turned off because they didn't do well in the beginning. These ones are within my target CPA, but just barely, right? Like these aren't necessarily good enough for me to want to put into their own CBO. These top ones got moved into their own CBO immediately. They were performing right out the gate. And then these ones quickly after, these ones came soon after. And then finally I moved out these ones I wanted to test too. So this one is an example here of one that was doing well and that got moved into its own CBO recently. All right, and it's very simple. The process of when you have an ad set that's performing and you want to move it into its own CBO, you just select that ad set and you go to duplicate. All right, select the ad set and go to duplicate. And what I'm going to do then is move it into a new campaign. I'll name that campaign whatever it is. So I like to do it like this: CBO conversions, and then whatever the audience name is. Okay, so I know what it is. And then I'll create 5 copies of that ad set. All right, so it's that simple. You duplicate it, you set 5 copies of the ad set, and then you set the minimum budget per ad set when you do it so you would just duplicate and then you would go back and edit it, right? Because when you duplicate it, it's going to duplicate it as a original campaign. Okay, so you're going to duplicate it, set it to a CBO with a $100 budget, and then go inside the ad set and set the minimum ad set of each one to be $10. Okay, so it's that simple. And then you're doing that with all your best performing ad sets. And this strategy, like I said, it's simple, but it works so well. The main goal here is you're testing a lot of audiences. And when you find an audience that's working in combination with your ad, you duplicate it to its own CBO. And then when you have multiples of these CBOs running, ideally you'll get 5 of them at least, or you'll have 5 to 10 of them running on these $100 budgets. The nice thing about a CBO is that it's so automated, right? It's so automated. So if we look at some of these that I've had running now for, some of these that I've had running for a few months, or I'm sorry, not a few months, for 1 month. Let's just isolate it to last month. Okay, they're very consistent. Now I turn off the ad sets that don't perform inside the CBO. So when you start the CBO, it's the same testing parameters as anything. All right, you're looking for the ones that are performing and turning off the ones that aren't. And so I turned off the one. It did get a purchase, but it was outside my target CPA, so I turned it off. And the rest of them were all getting good purchases within, very well within the target CPA and getting good return. And so I kept all of these on. And the thing about the CBO is that it will fluctuate. If I were to look at certain days of last month, there will be some days where some of these ad sets got no purchases, some days where some of these ad sets got tons of purchases, right? So it fluctuates based, on and off each day, and Facebook's going to distribute the budget evenly as best that it can kind of do each day to make sure that you're getting consistent purchases across the ad sets that you have. So it becomes a really automated way to get sales. And it's not perfect, but it's something that once you have these running, it's very set it and forget it. Once I had these CBOs running on my ad account, I didn't even really touch them after that initial monitoring phase, right? After the initial phase that you have to monitor it to make sure that it's working. So like, for example, when I come down and look at the new one that I just created that I was just telling you about, for, where is it? New one that I just created. Oh, last month. Sorry, I got to go to this month. It wasn't created yet. So let's just go to this month, okay? And we'll look at, oh yeah, here's this one. So it's already one of the best performers this month, and I just started this, right? I literally just started this one, and so when I do that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to monitor it the same way I would monitor anything. So automatically I can see, well, I have 4 audiences doing fantastic and 1 that's not. Right? And that's just the way that it is. And you can't expect all of them to be working well. But for whatever reason, this one has an add to cart. So, but for whatever reason, it's spent $13 and it's not performing the same as the others. And it's getting close to where I would cut it off, because it's like, it only has 1 add to cart by $13 spent. It's got no purchases. The rest of them all have at least 1 purchase by that. So for me, I could keep this running if I really wanted to. Obviously I could, but what I mean is, like, it may not necessarily be a final indicator that this ad set would never get a purchase, because it is still getting really good click rate, and it has at least gotten an add to cart. But the way that I often judge within a CBO is I look at performance compared to the other ad sets. Because I know what Facebook is going to do is it's going to distribute the budget across the ad sets that I have. So obviously, for whatever reason, these 4 are performing much, much, much better. They're all showing signs of multiple add to carts, with the exception of this one. But this one, this one also multiple add to carts, right? So they're all showing multiple add to carts, and they all at least have a purchase. And this one only has 1 add to cart, and it's an expensive add to cart. So for me, that's enough of a reason to turn that off, and then I'll just let these 4 run, right? So that's the idea. When I start a new CBO, I'm looking in the early phases of day 1, 2, and 3. Generally, you're going to see in the first day, because you're spending, more than $10 per ad set. So usually, if you're selling a product that has a target CPA in the $10 to $20 range, you're going to know usually within the first day whether or not if an ad set's performing or not, and then I just turn it off. All right, and I don't change the budget of the CBO. I will now just let Facebook do its thing and optimize. I probably won't have to touch this CBO again now. This will probably run for the entire month of May, just bringing in the moolah. Okay, you can see it's already getting a 5 times return. Okay, and I'll just keep letting that run. And now that I have multiple of these, you can see that it creates a very strong foundation for your store to be able to just bring in consistent sales, okay? And that's the strategy, all right? So it goes further than that, okay? Obviously, it goes further than that, but that's what I'm doing right now at the basics of, being able to get to 7K a day, being able to get to 100K a month. You don't need more than what I just showed you. Let that sink in really, really deep right now, okay? Because everybody always wants to be impressed by, like, oh, can you show me what it looks like to spend, $1,000 on an ad set? And yeah, sure, I could. Listen, when we look at this audience here, right? If I look at this audience, just to show you guys this, and if you understand how Facebook ads work, you'll understand this. Okay, you can see that audience is lawnmower. That's fine. I don't care if you know that. It's a 7.5 million size audience, right? So meaning that I could easily, you can see how well this is performing. I could easily take this, put it into its own manual bid campaign, spend $1,000 a day, and start really cranking it. Okay, I don't want to. Manual bid is so time consuming. You have to just kind of sit there and watch it all the time to make sure that it's okay. This is so easy. I don't have to. I can go watch Netflix for the rest of the day if I want to, and this will just continue to make money, right? So it's a matter of preference, but no matter what, it's also something that you can use to get to 100K per month stores on winning products when you have a winning ad creative, using this 1-2 step process of testing, multiple broad audiences, not really broad, but you get what I mean. Multiple audiences that are 2 million plus, moving the winners into their own CBO campaigns with a target of getting 5 proven winning audiences that you can move into a $100 CBO campaign. And assuming you have an average order value on your product of somewhere in like the $50 range, then this is a recipe to easily be able to get to 2K days quickly, and even higher than that as you create more CBOs from, you know, like, because the next phase, I'll just give you a brief synopsis into the next phase, because it really becomes the same thing, right? In the next phase, we start looking at your custom audiences. Okay, so you start taking your, say, your purchase audience, your initiate checkout, your add to cart, your view content, and then even your video views. Okay, so we create a custom audience for all of these, and then we go in and we create lookalikes. So you'll take each one of these and you'll create your lookalikes for 1 to 5%. You could go 1 to 10% if you want to, but I like to start 1 to 5%. So it's 5 audiences each. And then you take all of those audiences and you're going to put them into their own now new campaign. Again, ad set budget campaign, testing all of these different audiences at small budgets, right? Same thing. And so you'll have all of these different audiences you're testing. It'll probably somewhere in the range of, well, 5 times 5, at least 25, but for video views you can do 50% to 95%. So generally you have 8 audiences, right? So you would have 40 different audiences here. And then same thing, when you find one that works, one that works here, then you just take it and you move it into its own CBO campaign. Same strategy, right? So eventually you could have, like, you know, 15, 20 of these CBOs running at $100 a day. You could be doing 10K a day without even really scaling. Very, very automated, okay? And that's exactly what my plan is here, and how I do it every time with a store, and how I've been teaching people to do it, and hearing that people are getting great results with this. Okay, and then once you have all of these CBOs running, now you can start to look to scaling to the next level, right? I don't really even look to start scaling to the next level until I've maxed out the amount of CBOs I can have running, and that's just my preference, right? But then once I do that, now there's ways you can start scaling those CBOs that are performing by either duplicating them into more CBOs or raising the budget on that CBO. Right, you can raise the budget 20% every like 3 days, or you could duplicate this CBO to a higher budget when it's a big audience. So I could duplicate that to 250, and if it still performs well, then I could try even going and duplicating it to 500, you know, until I have these multiple CBOs running at bigger budgets, until I find like a sweet spot, duplicating it to 1,000. Right, different things like that. So this strategy becomes a foundation, but you'll still have all of these CBOs at their original budgets running, and everything you do above and beyond that is just, you know, more revenue. But you're building a really strong foundation of automated ad sets that are working for your store. Okay, and like I said, it's plenty to get you to 5K days and beyond, plenty to get you to 100K months and beyond. All right. So that's everything I wanted to show you. I hope you got a ton of value from this video that showed you basically how to set up and structure your testing, what you're looking for, and then how to quickly start making more money by duplicating into the CBO automation for your winning ad sets. Test this. Now remember that it's all based on having a performing audience and ad creative. That's why there's so much training before this video that talks about how to find your winning combination, because that winning combination is what makes a CBO work. And when you have it, that's why CBOs work so well. And that's why the testing phase at the ad set budget is still super important. But you want to test and find a winning creative, an audience that is converting for an ad that you have, and when you find that and move it into its own CBO, and you can do that across a couple different audiences, like 5 different audiences that are all performing with an ad really well, that's when you can hit this automation. All right, thanks for watching, and happy testing with this strategy. And if it works for you, please share with me. Let me know, post it in the group how this is working for you. I would love to see it.